We almost didn't make it. We had a major technological collapse. But our friend Bob Mack, who's one of the great engineers of all time, Westwood One, came to the rescue. So we want to thank our friend Bob and everybody else who worked with him, Christian, Rich, the whole gang. Before we jump into stuff, and there's a lot to jump into, from time to time, actually many times, I like to provide a sort of an intellectual, or what's a better way, a context for things that are going on, that I think about, that I write notes to myself, typically throughout the weekend. And that gives, I think, more insight into what's taking place in this country right now. And one of the things is that, hold on, let's see here. The district court's not lack merit appointments throughout the special counsel brief. Okay, that's their brief in an appeal. I'm not worried about that. We'll deal with that later. I thought it may be a court decision. All right. In any event, I think it's important because I get questions here. I get questions when I bump into people that always start with the word why. Why? Why don't people see what we see? Why do people think this way? Why do people vote this way? And the word why is the word that draws the attention of philosophers, scholars, intellectuals. That is, to try and figure out why. Or just people who are intrigued, people who are conscientious. Why? Why? So, all last night and this morning I was thinking to myself, among other things, this Democrat convention, where they talk about this word freedom, and yet the whole convention was largely about identity politics. The speakers were largely chosen because of their identities. The speakers were largely chosen because what they said about race, what they said about sexuality. Almost all of them talked about race. Why? Why is that? Why is the Democrat Party so focused on groupism, on fraternity? You and I, we're focused on individuality, a colorblind society. That's what liberty means to us. You look at the Declaration of Independence, what does it talk about? There's not a word in there about race. It's about natural law. Natural rights, God-given. God-given to each individual. Unalienable rights, not given to groups based on physical features or their faith or whatever it is. Unalienable rights given to each human being. Each human being has their own value, their own worth. But the Democrat Party doesn't see things that way. In fact, there's organizations that represent different ethnic groups, different racial groups, different religious groups. They don't see things that way either. What's going on? This is very important to understand. I know it's not typical talk radio, but it is typical Mark Levin talk radio. You and I talk about individual liberty, the Constitution, free will, the importance of separation of power so there's not a concentration of centralized power, the importance of representative government, not little d democracy, so you don't have mobocracy. You don't have mobocracy, so people can't vote by majority to destroy your unalienable rights. The Constitution is a magnificent balance in order to protect the individual. Government doesn't exist to get more powerful, to get more centralized, to rejigger society or to re-engineer the human person. government exists to protect the civil society, the social contract. Stick with me. We're more concerned about the protection of the individual, free will, unalienable rights, than the Democrat Party, or even more than the left. Why is that? Why is that? Within the Democrat Party has constructed a political environment that is based on putting people into groups and then trying to unite those groups, whether it's an economic group, a racial group, an ethnic group, whatever it is. Group identity. Now, I don't think they do this because they're particularly scholarly or they're particularly brilliant. I think they do this because it works for them. But I'm going to go below surface level. Why does it work for them? Why does it work for them? It seems that so many of the people at that convention, speaking at that convention, and so many people that we know who identify as Democrats or leftists, they don't talk about individual liberty. In fact, they attack the constitutional construct. They attack the American federal. Well, what is it? What is it that demands their loyalty, that draws their attention? They're even willing to accept levels of authoritarianism and paternalism that you and I are not. Why? Why? Why are they willing to surrender their individualism? CRT rather than a colorblind society. I think I got this figured out. You and I find our security in individualism. You and I want the freedom to use our labor, intellectual and physical labor, in ways that make us feel successful, accomplished, motivated. As an individual, we contribute to society, don't get me wrong. We want to be able to do what we need to be able to do to fulfill our lives and to fulfill our responsibilities to our family. To our family. And in order to do that, we understand the importance of a constitutional system, of a representative system, of free will, of individual liberty, of treating people based on merit and substance, not based on physicality or faith, or whatever it is that they're associated with. Not true on the other side. Not true on the left. Not true with the Democrat Party, the political vessel through which they operate. It's group identity. Group identity is where many people, even in this country, feel safe, feel secure. Group identity is how they interpret liberty. It's not really liberty, but that's how they interpret it. The power of their group. The power of their group. Liberty is redefined, wrongly, are believed to be a group power. There's power in group. Black power, as an example. And so, individual liberty is not as important as group power. Am I making sense, Mr. Producer? The higher form of attachment is to the group. whatever group you identify with. You don't feel secure as an individual. You feel secure as part of a group that has power. That, I think, is the crux of the matter. You have an identity, not as an individual. Look, maybe you're not doing so great on the job. Maybe you have issues. Maybe you don't have issues. Maybe you've been mistreated. So you feel power and identity and even a perverse form of liberty as part of a group. Even if that group, even if the Democrat Party is denying you of individual liberties, is centralizing decision-making in Washington, D.C., with politicians and bureaucrats you don't even know, many you may not even like. But you feel more secure. You actually feel free in a bizarre way with the less freedom that you have and the less freedom that the guy across the street has. And so you have a much higher tolerance for paternalism, a much higher tolerance for authoritarianism. It's okay if they destroy separation of powers. That doesn't mean anything to you. It's okay if they destroy the independence of the Supreme Court. It's okay if the government hands out health care, if the government sets prices and so forth and so on. You're part of the group. And you have a high level of tolerance for group decision-making because the group is your security. The group is your perverse view of freedom. So I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. Doesn't matter what she thinks. Doesn't matter what she says. Doesn't matter what she believes. She's part of the group. And the Democrat Party knows it. So what do they tout? Do they tout her policies? No. Do they tout her substance? No. Do they tout her experience? No. They tout that she's the first black woman nominee of a party and would be the first black woman president. And so, if you're of this mindset, that's enough. I don't need to know where she stands on the border. I don't care. She's going to protect my group. And by that, by the way, I don't just mean black or female. I mean Democrat. My group is going to be empowered. The Democrat Party, I'm going to be empowered as a Democrat. I'm going to be empowered as a woman. I'm going to be empowered as an African American. All or part of it or something like that. I don't think that way. I don't think that way. I look at Bernie Sanders, he's Jewish, I say, what an a-hole that guy is. Complete jerk. Many Republicans, I say the same thing. That guy's a jerk. I don't care. I'm not supporting that guy. Mitt Romney, he's a loser. Whatever. So it appears to me that half or close to half of the country has a perverse view of liberty. That they view liberty as group power, as identity power, as power in numbers. They don't view liberty as a matter of individualism or free will. They don't much care. People who believe in groups and the Constitution and the founding doesn't really matter. Because liberty is redefined as a belief in the power of the group, the identity of the group. Look at Hamas that gets elected by the Palestinians, brutalizes their own people, kills them, starves them. But it's the group. It's the group.